They were immigrants who found love in America.
When they saw each other, they each saw home.
They were really in it together, like they love each other.
This was the family unit that they craved.
But there are some things no family should have to go through.
The children had not been picked up.
They went to the apartment, but no one answered.
That's when they called 911.
One down, kitchen.
She was laying in pools of blood.
There was some obvious evidence of struggle in the residence.
Who would have wanted her dead?
She really didn't have any enemies.
But she did have secrets.
You guys are sleeping. Yeah.
He was very jealous and controlling.
Then she asked him to leave.
She feared that he would retaliate.
Asked whether he had killed her. He never denied it.
But he didn't admit it either.
The demon, they just took over a black guy.
April 17th, 2018. It's Tuesday evening in Silver Spring, Maryland, a D.C. suburb that sometimes feels like a city in its own right.
It's a bustling, like, metropolitan feel. They're the main strip along Georgia Avenue with a lot of shops and places to eat. It's a very fun environment.
You have the city, and then you have the suburbs right next door. So you have the best of both worlds.
It's also culturally diverse.
You have individuals from all over the world, different cultures, different languages, and all in this very small area.
Ethiopian families, Haitian families, and a lot of Asian families as well. Very multicultural.
And 34-year-old Alice Dennis and her husband, Ruel Dempster, fit right in.
The family had migrated from Liberia. They had 2 children that were like tweens, getting ready to embark on becoming teenagers here.
Even Ruel's parents came over from Liberia.
And at around 6 that evening, they go pick up their grandchildren from an after-school program.
You haven't heard from them?
They received a phone call that the children had not been picked up. So the grandparents picked them up.
Ruel's parents hoped that it was just some sort of mix-up.
Possibly Ruel and Alice just simply forgot or lost track of time.
Unable to reach their son and daughter-in-law, Ruel's parents drive over to the couple's apartment.
Ruel's parents lived just blocks from he and Alice.
They knocked on the door and no one answered.
Ruel? Alice? Are you in there?
No one's answering, but there's music inside the residence. Loud music.
Ruel, Alice!
They knew that something was off.
Although they were both Liberian immigrants, Alice Dennis and Ruel Dempster met in the United States.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
When Alice and Ruel first met, it was almost love at first sight. They were able to spend time together at work every day, and doing something mundane turned into something really fun.
Ruel was immediately captivated by Alice.
She was a very vibrant, happy-go-lucky, life of the party type of personality.
To know Alice was to love Alice. You couldn't help yourself. Her smile was infectious.
And Alice felt the same way about Ruel.
He was charming. And when they saw each other, they each saw home. They understood the culture. This was a man that she could foresee being her husband.
You're vibing, it feels good. It feels like, you know, a stronger connection.
After a few years of dating, Alice and Ruel married.
When they thought they were ready for children, that's exactly what they did. They had their first child, a son, and the world changed for both of them.
The growing family settled into an apartment building across from where Ruel's parents lived.
I think that it is helpful to have that community, to have that support system, especially when you have children.
Then, 2 years after their son was born, the couple had another child, this time a daughter.
This was the family they craved, that they both desired.
They were living the American dream.
But as much as she loved her family, Alice had a dream of her own.
She had certain aspirations, and one of those was becoming a certified nurse assistant.
So Alice enrolled in a nursing assistant program.
And after graduation, Alice found work as a home health aide.
She took care of people and was very hardworking.
Soon, her hard work paid off.
Alice became the breadwinner of the family, and Ruel was there to support her.
Don't forget, set the oven to 350.
Don't worry, I got it.
All right.
It's okay.
Love you.
Love you.
He wanted his wife to succeed. He would stay home and take care of the children. It was what worked for them.
She had children and a career that was thriving, and a man that she loved and supported her dreams.
This was a good situation. What more could she ask for?
But now, after failing to pick up their kids from school, Alice and Ruel aren't answering their door.
Call her.
Or their phones.
No one's answering, but there's music inside the residence. And Alice's car was parked there. So that was bizarre.
The next morning, still, no one had been able to contact Alice or Ruel. So when the grandparents got the kids to school, they asked the school to contact police.
I have a student here whose grandfather brought her in this morning. The parents weren't home and they can't get access to the apartment and they don't know where the parents are.
Okay, and she'll be dispatched as soon as possible.
When officers arrive at the apartment for a welfare check, they find the same thing Ruel's parents did.
The doors were locked, the windows were secure, and of course, they noticed that Alice's vehicle was still parked there. So that raised a level of concern.
The same loud music is still coming from inside, too.
Patrol ultimately made entry into the apartment with the assistance of property management.
When they entered, they got their first clue as to what had happened.
One down, one down, one down. Kitchen.
Liberian immigrants Alice Dennis and her husband Ruel Dempster had built a great life for themselves and their two children.
Alice was working as a certified nursing assistant while Ruel stayed home with the kids.
He was supporting her in her dreams, and the children were healthy, they were thriving.
But now police conducting a welfare check at the couple's apartment have just made a horrific discovery.
One down, one down, one down. In the kitchen.
They immediately saw a female on the floor suffering from what appeared to be traumatic injuries.
She was laying in pools of blood.
It was clear that she was beyond help.
I mean, I don't know that we need fire rescue. No.
It was clear that she had obvious trauma to her upper torso.
This woman was stabbed multiple times.
So officers secured the residence and notified homicide.
We're trying to get tape and just tape everything off.
When detectives arrive on the scene, they start out by examining the body.
She had one particularly large stab injury to her neck that was cleaned through to the bone, and frankly, an injury that nearly decapitated her.
When you see the severity of the injuries, it just shows that perhaps the attacker had some personal connection to the victim.
And it's clear from the scene that she didn't go down without a fight.
The house was turned upside down.
There was a lot of evidence of there being a fight or a struggle in the residence.
Detectives are also able to determine that the woman is Alice.
She was wearing scrubs and a lanyard with her ID badge.
She clearly had either been going to work or coming home from work.
But who would want to hurt her? Hoping for answers, the detectives turn to Alice and Ruel's neighbors.
We don't know anything about Alice when we get there. So we have to talked to neighbors, talked to family, talked to friends, and tried to understand who she was.
Unfortunately, they learned that Alice and her husband mostly kept to themselves.
Do you know them next door?
We don't really know them, but like, I know their children.
Talking to people in and about the area is really important. Sometimes they don't have any information, but you don't know until you talk to them.
Monday night, did you ever hear anything unusual or?
No.
Didn't hear anything?
No.
However, one neighbor had seen Alice outside her apartment late Saturday night.
I was coming from the club with my husband, and she was outside sitting in the stairs.
She was obviously upset.
Could this incident have something to do with her death?
Unfortunately, when the detectives ask why Alice was upset, her neighbor has no idea.
I don't know anything else.
Okay, and?
I mean, we just see each other. I don't even know her name, but she just goes, oh, hi, how are you? You know, your daughter's getting big, stuff like that, but that's it.
Still, the canvas does reveal something useful.
We identified some security cameras that we knew we were going to want to get footage from.
So, before leaving the complex, detectives stop by the management office, and they agree to send the footage over.
It could narrow down that timeline, that window of what happened and when it happened.
It could even include footage of the killer coming or going from the apartment.
After arranging for the apartment management to send them the footage, the detectives sit down with Ruel's mother, who has arrived outside the apartment.
What are you going to feed in my car? Figure out what's going on.
She was devastated to learn that her daughter-in-law was dead.
These two families were interconnected. Alice and Ruel were special to each side of the family, and Ruel's family was just as devastated learning something like this could happen to Alice.
But Alice's mother-in-law also has an urgent question.
Where is it, Ruel?
They hadn't heard from him. His phone was going straight to voicemail.
Hoping for clues, the detectives have Ruel's mom go back to the beginning.
She said she didn't have any idea anything was wrong until the school called her. The school said they needed to come get the children.
It's not like them not to call.
Right.
They picked up the kids, figured they'd drop them off later, and everything would be fine.
But they never heard anything from Ruel or Alice.
I told him, I said, look, this is getting serious.
This wasn't like anything that Alice or Ruel had ever done before.
And the next morning, still unable to get a hold of Ruel or Alice, they'd ask the school to call the police.
Because according to Ruel's mother, they were afraid something had happened.
They argue a lot.
In fact, Ruel's mother said recently she had to break up a fight between them.
Oh, you're sick and tired? You tired? You going to the
Ruel Dempster's mother has just told detectives investigating the murder of his wife, Alice Dennis, that the couple had been having arguments.
She admitted that Ruel and Alice were having some marital issues.
Apparently, Ruel had even gotten into some legal trouble, too.
He had a weapons charge that was a federal charge.
He had been imprisoned for 3 years.
And he was still on federal parole for that crime.
But she says it was nothing that they couldn't work out, nothing to lead to Alice winding up dead in their home.
Has it ever been physical that you know of, or that Alice has told you, or Ruel's told you?
No.
However, Ruel's mother admits that she has had to step in at times.
Including a few days prior, early on Saturday morning.
Who was that, huh? No! Where you trying to go? Huh?
I just don't want this no more.
No!
Leave me alone.
No, you can't go in there.
I'm sick of it.
I don't care.
She called me, we talked, I would say around 1-something, 2 in the morning.
Alice had to call her in-laws just so she could put some separation between herself and Ruel. And his parents immediately, because they lived just a few blocks away, came right to the apartment.
Oh, yeah, no, man, this is so... Oh, you're sitting tired? You going to bed? You going to bed? Come on, Ruel. No, get Ruel. Calm down. You come up here. Let's go.
They came in, they talked with their son, and calmed things down.
I made a statement that they need, counseling.
Still, Ruel's mother couldn't imagine that any of these issues would have led to Alice's death.
Okay. Well, where do you think Raul would be?
I don't know. I really have no idea.
To get a possible lead on Ruel, the detectives subpoena his cell phone records once they get back to the station.
They also subpoenaed Alice's records, hoping to get a more complete picture of the couple's relationship.
Cell phones play a huge part of just about every investigation. We always have to get a search warrant, and that takes time.
Then, while waiting to hear back from the couple's cell phone provider, the detectives reach out to Alice and Ruel's friends and coworkers.
We talked to people just to understand the victimology, understand what type of person she was.
All the people that they speak to just repeat the same things over and over again.
She really didn't have any enemies.
But then a woman named Maria Barnes contacts detectives.
Glass.
How do you know Alice? She's my best friend that we worked together in 2005. Okay. And we've been friends since then.
Maria enlightened police that, yes, everything from the outside looking in was copacetic, but being Alice's best friend, Maria knew the inside tea, if you will.
Maria confirms what Ruel's mother said, that a lot of the couple's issues stemmed from Ruel's stint in jail.
When he was incarcerated, she always put herself second.
She worked jobs, she took extra shifts. She did whatever she had to do to keep that family unit running. And now she was tired.
She wanted it to work for the sake of her children.
It feels like a constant race to make ends meet.
And even after he was out of jail, Ruel was little help.
She needed him to get a job and to take care of the family, and he wasn't doing that.
Alice was frustrated in her marriage.
And despite Alice being the couple's primary provider, Ruel still insisted on calling the shots.
It might be cultural, I don't know, but she always kept him as the head of the household.
He was very jealous and controlling. He was constantly trying to control Alice.
And contrary to what Ruel's mother claimed, Maria says the relationship was violent.
Maria has had a front row seat to the violent tendencies.
But you never told me he hit her.
According to Maria, she didn't have to.
Sometimes she would have bruises and marks on her body.
Maria tells the detectives that Alice had finally stood up for herself and asked him to leave.
When did she ask him to leave?
Maybe a month ago, I think. Did he leave? Yeah, he wasn't there.
But Maria said Alice eventually let Ruel return.
The kids were sick, and she said he came. She allowed him to come in because she had to go to work.
Maria says the couple was soon squabbling again.
He would take her keys.
But according to Maria, Alice was determined to leave permanently.
Alice was ready to end this relationship and get away from Ruel.
She was in the process of moving on.
And she started seeing somebody else.
Alice Dennis's friend, Maria Barnes, has just told Silver Spring detectives that Alice was planning to leave her husband, Ruel Dempster.
I just don't want this no more.
No, you can't go in there.
I'm sick of it.
I don't care.
Alice decided to move on with her life because her home was completely dysfunctional, abusive, and toxic.
And according to her friend Maria, Alice wasn't just moving on. She was moving on with a new man.
Do you know who she was seeing?
Yes.
His name is Caleb Weaver.
It was a relatively new relationship for her. It had only developed recently prior to her death, maybe a month or two before.
This man had been helping her cope with being the caregiver to 2 children and running herself ragged, trying to work multiple shifts to keep up with the bills and keep up with her husband.
So now detectives are wondering, had Ruel found out about Caleb?
Or had Caleb grown frustrated waiting for Alice to kick her husband to the curb?
Could this man have been in a jealous rage and also done something to Ruel?
The jealous boyfriend is obviously always going to be a likely suspect.
After talking to Maria, detectives take a look into Caleb Weaver's background.
He had no significant rap sheet or any red flags indicating a history of violence.
But that doesn't mean he couldn't be involved somehow.
We want to talk to this person and see what he will disclose and what we can corroborate about his relationship and the development of that relationship with Ms. Dennis.
When the detectives bring Caleb in for questioning, he doesn't deny being involved with Alice.
The secret.
The what?
The secret. She's messing with a little bit.
He said they've only been dating for a few weeks, though.
And how'd you meet her?
I already knew her from the neighborhood.
He happened to become her confidant.
She did confide in him about long-term abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, assaults. Just a very difficult home life. And he felt compassion for her.
She was always being the supporter. So this was finally a place where she could kind of lean on someone else.
But when detectives asked Caleb if he was upset that her husband was still around, Caleb insists he wasn't.
He said that she made it clear to him that she and Ruel were no longer in a relationship.
To my knowledge, he wasn't even supposed to be coming over here. Only reason she let him over here is so she can watch the kids while she go to work.
And according to Caleb, Alice was about to file for divorce.
She realized that she could not salvage this relationship, and she wanted more for herself.
Okay, so you guys are sleeping together.
Yeah.
Okay, sleep at your apartment or her apartment?
Although, rather than spend the night, Caleb said Alice would mostly come by in the afternoon.
So she would stop at your place? Okay.
Because the kids would still be at home with the club.
That's where the kids were when Ruel's parents picked them up on the day Alice and Ruel went missing.
Which leads detectives to their next question. When Caleb last saw Alice.
He said that the last time was 2 days before her body was discovered.
He met her over at a friend's house on Saturday night, after Ruel's parents broke up the argument between the couple.
So you're with Alice from Saturday night to Sunday morning?
Yes.
And according to Caleb, Alice's fight with Ruel was about him.
He kept telling her, like, tell the kids who you messing with, what's his name and all that.
He's suspecting that she's cheating,
Yeah.
but he can't figure out who.
Yep.
Ruel had gone through her text messages.
Caleb said Alice owned up to the infidelity, but had given Ruel a false name.
She told him he was messing with some guy named Jerome or something like that.
She feared that he would retaliate with violence.
Still, Caleb says that after they spent most of the day together that Sunday, Alice had gone home at around 6 to make dinner for her kids.
But he said he did speak to her on the phone again on Monday evening.
And according to Caleb, Alice said something during that phone call that seems ominous in hindsight.
She said something happens to me, you know, he did it.
Caleb said at the time he thought she was just kidding around.
But now that Alice is dead, the detectives suspect she was deathly serious.
Thank you for your time.
Police know after speaking with Caleb that they need to find Ruel.
When the detectives get Ruel and Alice's phone records, they prove to be a dead end.
From the report, it was clear that both phones had been turned off since the murder.
We could not locate him by using his cell site technology.
Still, The detectives keep trying.
Any possible connection to him, they were calling and trying to find out, have you talked to him, have you heard from him?
They also pull Ruel's criminal record.
Ruel had been on parole, federal parole, for a weapons charge.
But that's not the only thing they find on his record.
He was charged with manslaughter.
He had been suspected in the death of a police officer.
Detectives investigating the murder of Alice Dennis have learned that her husband Ruel Dempster's rap sheet includes a decade-old manslaughter charge.
He was the driver in a traffic incident in which he fled. He led police on a high-speed pursuit.
During the pursuit, one officer stepped out of his car and was run over by another driver.
He was tried under the theory that his fleeing the police was essentially the domino that caused the other dominoes to fall.
The case went to trial, but Ruel was acquitted.
The jury essentially found that his actions were too attenuated from the actual death of the officer.
Then, a few years later, he'd been picked up on a firearms charge.
Ruel pled guilty on that charge and spent 3 years in federal prison.
He might have been a little bit violent before, but 3 years behind bars can really escalate some of these activities and behaviors.
Did that mean Ruel was a killer?
Come take a look at this.
The key to the mystery may be in the security footage the detectives received from the couple's apartment complex.
In this case, we had the good fortune of having surveillance video.
Following the surveillance video, we saw Ruel leave the home on the morning of the 17th with his children. He took them to the roadway at the intersection of the complex, and he walked back to his home.
In the video, he was wearing a black hoodie and some light-colored pants.
Within 1 hour of him coming back from walking his children, you see him leaving again with the same hoodie, but different pants.
He's also carrying a small duffel bag.
He walked in the same direction, but he made a right as if he was walking to a bus stop. There were several bus stops along the roadway.
Essentially, he drops off the map for the next few weeks.
Fast forwarding through the rest of the video, it's clear Ruel never returns to the apartment, and Alice is never seen leaving it.
There were no signs of anyone else approaching the apartment either.
So we assumed that he packed some things after killing Alice, left the home, got in a bus, and never came back.
Whether he had a weapon in that duffel bag or not, we don't know for certain.
But the detectives are certain of one thing.
There was a bunch of factors that when you looked at them in conjunction, made it clear that Ruel committed this murder.
The surveillance video, the pending breakup, the history of abuse, and Ruel's suspicion that Alice was seeing someone else all pointed to him as the killer.
And the mere fact that he was trying not to be found is also suspicious when your wife is brutally murdered.
Add it all up, and it's more than enough for an arrest warrant.
The arrest warrant goes into a computer database so that any law enforcement officer could apprehend the person.
News of the arrest warrant also generates several tips.
First was from a man in Baltimore who said he was Ruel's cousin.
This murder happened on Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon, about 2 o'clock, he showed up in Baltimore.
And according to his cousin, the next morning, Ruel took a rideshare to the bus station.
He was on his phone. Bus tickets.
Based on the tip, the detectives focused their efforts on Virginia.
Several days went by, and we continued to work with other agencies to help us locate Ruel.
But the trail grows cold.
He knew how to disappear. This man used burner phones. He was on Snapchat with disappearing messages. There was no real way to pinpoint Ruel's location.
Until after more than a week of fruitless searching, the detectives finally get a lead when Ruel's brother makes a surprise visit to the police station.
Ruel was sending his brother messages.
He called from apps, so they were unable to determine where he was calling from.
So do you know where he is?
No, I don't. One time he said he was in Minnesota, then the next time he said he was in Montreal.
Those were both places with a big Liberian community.
Wherever Ruel was, what he said on the calls was disturbing.
This family member said to me, you know, he sounds like he's mentally in distress. He did not sound like himself.
Maybe he is mentally unstable. Maybe he had a mental breakdown.
It just sounded really disturbing every time he calls. It's like he just wouldn't stop talking about the devil.
He felt his body had been possessed by Lucifer, and he didn't know what to do.
I mean, I told him to turn his F in, and I just don't think he's gonna do that.
Well, let us know if he contacts you again.
With that information, we reached out to the Canadian Border Patrol to assist us in locating him.
But then another tip comes in.
He reached out to a friend who heard that Alice was killed.
This friend straight up asked if he was responsible for Alice's death, and he said no.
And he told her, you know, to lose his number, erase the conversation, take care of yourself. We're never gonna talk again.
Instead, his friend gave the number to police.
And the phone number that he used, we were able to determine was registered to Mexico.
Maryland detectives investigating the murder of 34-year-old Alice Dennis have learned that her husband, Ruel Dempster, may have fled to Mexico.
While on the run, he had contacted a friend, which eventually led police to trace some of his calls.
And the phone number that he used was a registered number from Mexico.
Tipped off by Ruel's friend, the detectives alert law enforcement on both sides of the border.
On May 7th, he's caught by Mexican police after 3 weeks completely on the lam.
He denied being Ruel Dempster, but they sent me a photograph of him. And I said, that's indeed Ruel Dempster. We got him.
Ruel was immediately detained and extradited back to Silver Spring, Maryland.
More than 2 months after the murder, the detectives are finally able to sit down with Ruel.
He asked what he was charged with. I said murder.
You brutally murdered your wife, and you left her there. That is how it looked, okay?
The word murder came out, and he became fixated on whether it was premeditated or not. Because how can you charge me with murder if it's not premeditated?
All I've asked from you is just to tell me the truth. It wasn't premeditated.
And I said, well, you know, I'm not saying you planned any of this out.
You stumbled across some information that Alice probably didn't want you to see, and you lost it.
But Ruel says it wasn't like that at all.
Asked whether or not he had killed her, he never denied it, he never admitted it.
When he was confronted with the evidence against him, he blamed someone else, like any coward would. He blamed spiritual warfare. He blamed demons in his head.
He settled on the notion that spiritual or spirits or something like that was sort of the guiding force behind his behavior.
The demons, they just took over.
But then he started to backtrack from that just a little bit.
He says at one point that he doesn't remember what happened.
Oh, I lost it like I blacked out.
But his actions after the murder speak otherwise.
He had the awareness to nearly successfully flee the country, and he already was thinking about his defense and how this was not a premeditated murder.
We sort of went round and round.
He gave a nearly 6-hour meandering interview.
And we got some good information out of him to the extent where he at least tacitly admitted to committing the crime. without saying he committed the crime.
Even without an explicit confession, the prosecutors are confident they can secure a conviction.
We had a strong circumstantial case based on Ruel's behavior before the murder, which showed the violence, the controlling behavior, the jealousy, the anger, the fights.
He wanted to portray this persona of I'm a strong man and I'm in control of my home. But when he lost that control, it was hard for him to deal with it.
And that was before he found out that Alice was seeing someone else.
Ruel had gone through her phone, had found text messages, and had become very jealous and controlled. That quickly devolved into a fight between Alice and Ruel. That fight became so bad that Alice called Ruel's parents.
Ruel's parents were able to calm things down, temporarily.
That was the same night neighbors saw Alice crying on the stairs outside of the apartment.
Alice left for the night, and then Ruel's parents took the children.
She'd spent the night, and most of the next day, with her new boyfriend, Caleb.
She stayed out to kind of stay away and give him time to cool down, and the grandparents continued to take care of the children.
And she hadn't gone home until Sunday evening.
Alice assumed everything was back to normal.
But she was wrong. That Tuesday morning, as he walked their kids to the bus stop, Ruel made a fateful decision.
She made it clear to him that she no longer wanted to be with him, and he was not ready to allow her to move on. Because in his mind, that's his wife, his property.
And when he got back to the apartment, he made sure she would never leave him.
Morel, what are you doing? What?
You gonna cheat on me? You think you're gonna just mess around on me and get away with it?
She's savagely killed, and then he tries to make it across the Mexican border.
Ruel thought that he was smarter than the police and that he could kill her and just move on with life.
But instead, Ruel would be going to prison for 40 years.
He ended up taking a plea deal.
40 years is the maximum he could have received for a second degree. We certainly would have tried the case on a first degree premeditation theory, but there would have been challenges. And we also spared their children having to relive, the events.
I always feel like it's better to not re-traumatize them by making them testify. So, am I satisfied with the plea deal for the children's sake? Yes, but it doesn't take away what happened to Alice.
And it doesn't make what comes after any easier.
People have to make some really big decisions about how do we move forward, how do we grieve, how do we help the kids grieve.
They've lost their mom and their father. That's a hard blow for a child.
Unfortunately, domestic violence has no zip code. It's important that people realize that Alice's story could be almost any woman that you know.
Including a loving mother doing her very best to not only raise her children, but help others as well.
Alice Dennis was a life cut far too short. I don't know how many times we have to hear on the news or watch in a television show to hear about yet another woman dying at the hands of an abusive partner.
What happened to Alice Dennis was just the ultimate manifestation of how bad it gets when domestic violence continues to go unchecked.
She was a young woman overcoming obstacles.
She had these cognitive challenges that created some difficulties, but she graduated from high school.
She's just a woman who was looking for love.
And she'd finally found it.
He is giving her some sincere attention.
She's found someone that accepts her.
Somebody who really sees her.
But her happiness would be short-lived.
Hey, ambulance.
she had been beaten up.
How many people jumped on her? I can't remember.
Was it simply because she was different?
She had developmental delays.
She did speak up for herself.
She was bullied throughout her lifetime.
Or had her desire for love lured her into a trap?
Someone took total control of their life.
And she wasn't the only victim.
That's what I feel like.
Torture.
Her situation was similar. Not only is he a serial abuser, he is a chronic liar.
There are monsters out there in the world.
September 7th, 2014. It's a quiet Sunday evening in Lumberton, North Carolina, a town of only 20,000, 2.5 hours southeast of Charlotte.
Lumberton is very rural. It's in the southeastern part of North Carolina. There's a lot of good in Lumberton. Everybody knows each other. And when things go down, news travels.
And the 911 call that comes in at around 5 o'clock is sure to get everyone talking.
Jefferson County 911. Do you need an ambulance or the law?
I need ambulance.
The caller is 29-year-old Christopher Lennon.
My girl is not waking up.
He says he's found his girlfriend, Princess Powell, unresponsive in their living room.
You say she's not waking up?
No.
He doesn't have a working cell phone, so he went next door to use the phone to make the 911 call.
Okay. Okay, stay on the line.
After dispatching first responders to Chris and Princess's address, the operator tries to get some preliminary information.
Do you know if she's breathing?
I don't know.
Christopher was hysterical.
And based on what he tells the dispatcher, it's easy to see why.
She's breathing about 2 months.
Princess Powell was a lovable soul who had faced unique challenges in her young life.
She did have special needs, which set her apart a little bit.
Her level of thinking was probably about 5 or 6 years behind of what her actual age is. Talking about baby dolls or just talking about things that you expect a typical 9 or 10-year-old to discuss and not a 16 or 17-year-old.
Which sometimes caused problems for the teenager.
As far as Prince's and all kids that's in that bracket, the biggest challenge for them is peer pressure.
She was one of the people that was bullied throughout her lifetime.
And then when you fall within that spectrum, then you only want acceptance. So I think Prince's biggest challenge is I just want to be treated like an individual. I want to fit in.
Princess did finish high school, but soon faced a new challenge.
She became pregnant.
She might not understand the future ramifications of that, but in the right now, I could see her smiling and just, everybody she ran across, she probably was rubbing her belly and saying, I'm pregnant.
But reality soon intervened.
After she gave birth to her oldest child, she gave her parents custody.
With her challenges, she wouldn't have been able to do everything as a mother. So like in the middle of the night when a child wake up, she may need to warm a bottle or diaper change. She would have needed that assistance or someone to help her to be able to understand that. This is a real live baby. It's not a baby doll.
Although her parents had legal custody and responsibility of her son, Princess remained in his life.
She still lived with her parents.
She was able to spend time with her son.
Her mom and stepdad make sure the child is well cared for.
But the experience left Princess wanting more from life.
She's just a woman who was looking for love.
Sometimes we need to be reminded that just because someone has special needs, that doesn't mean that they can't have secure attachments.
And in 2011, at 18 years old, she finally found it when she met Christopher Lennon.
He was 8 years older than her.
To an 18-year-old that might have been impressionable and looking for love, not even considering having special needs, I could see where Princess might have thought he might have been her saving grace, very knowledgeable and more established. That would have been very appealing.
That's especially true considering the bullying she experienced as a teen.
Here, Christopher comes along and is not one of those bullies. And he is giving her sincere attention. For someone like Princess with those cognitive struggles, that will make her feel like, whoa, I have found my soulmate. Finally, I found somebody who really sees me.
You're so beautiful.
She feels a sense of belonging, a sense of security.
She seemed genuinely happy with him.
The relationship moved quickly.
When people have young love, they go full speed ahead.
Before anybody realized anything, she was packing everything up and moving in with him.
And the following year, she had even more exciting news.
I'm pregnant.
Really?
Yeah.
What better thing to be able to conceive a child with the love of your life, to be able to start fresh.
This was an opportunity to get it right. Another shot at giving birth to a child that she and her partner would love on and raise right there in their home.
And then, less than a year after Princess gave birth to their little boy, the couple was expecting again.
Even if there are some challenges as being a mother, it appears that she is functioning, she's moving on her journey.
But now, Princess's journey appears to be in jeopardy.
Chris called 911 and says he's found Princess unresponsive on their couch.
Do you know if she passed out or what happened? No.
Then, too distraught to talk, he hands the phone back to his neighbor.
There was no cell phone, no landline in the home. So he went to a neighbor and borrowed their phone.
He said he woke up, she was lying about it. Okay, tell him he needs to calm down.
This was very scary for him.
With first responders on the way, the dispatcher sends Christopher and his neighbor over to the couple's trailer to check on Princess.
Okay, listen, is she breathing? Have him see if she's breathing. Can you feel her breathe?
The answer appears to be no.
Ask him, does he want to try and do CPR? No, I think it's too late for that. I'm sorry? I think it's too late for all of that.
The neighbor is someone who used to work at a funeral home.
I think she gone.
And when EMTs arrive on the scene a few minutes later, they confirm it.
They declared her dead.
And it didn't appear that she died from natural causes.
They noticed bruising to her face.
It was clear that she had suffered an assault of some kind.
Major Grimes, we'll need you at this location, please.
In the small town of Lumberton, North Carolina, 21-year-old Princess Powell had overcome numerous obstacles to build a happy home with her boyfriend, Christopher Lennon.
She's found someone that accepts her for who she is.
They had a child together and another one on the way.
But now, first responders have declared Princess dead and requested homicide detectives at the scene.
Major Grimes, we're gonna need you at this location.
She had bruising about her face, a lot on her right side and above her eyes.
In addition to the bruising, there was also evidence of blood coming from her nose.
Detectives are also able to determine that Princess has been dead for some time.
She was cold and rigor mortis was setting in.
Looking around the house, the detectives find traces of blood.
You had blood that was in the bathroom of the residence. You had blood that was in the kitchen.
There was blood on the refrigerator door, along the walls, even on the cabinets.
Unsure where and how the attack on Princess occurred, The detectives turn to her boyfriend, Chris, to see what he can tell them.
Thank you, officer. Thank you. We appreciate it very much.
All right, come with us.
On the scene, he was very friendly, very cooperative.
Just have a seat for us, Chris.
What about all the marks on her? Bruises and stuff on her face?
Chris then indicated they had left the night before around midnight, 1 a.m., walking towards the BP near their home.
She like walking all the time, man. We'd be bored at the house.
He and Princess walked down, made a purchase, and then began walking back home. As they got close to the residence, a vehicle pulled up and several females exited. He seen the females walking towards Princess.
Look who we got here!
So he goes and runs for cover.
Let's go, baby, let's go! I mean, what could I do?
And he assumed Princess had been right behind him.
I told her to come on.
Christopher says he hid. And when he heard the car pull away, he'd emerged to find Princess lying on the ground.
He sees that
Okay, baby?
she has been beaten.
I guess she couldn't keep up or something.
You okay?
She says she's okay, and they proceed to go home.
Look, let's get you home. Come on.
Back at the house, Princess cleaned herself up.
Which could explain the spots of blood in the kitchen and bathroom.
She's able to collect herself to the point that he says she's acting normal.
But Christopher says that as the evening went on, he became increasingly concerned about Princess and their unborn child.
At some point, she ends up in the bathroom for an hour.
Hey. Hey.
He thought that it possibly could have been a miscarriage because she was in there for so long.
Princess.
He was able to convince her to allow him into the bathroom, and he helped her off the toilet and back to the living room onto the sofa.
But after he got her settled on the couch, things still didn't seem right.
She started there talking out of her mind.
You want to go to the emergency room?
I think I just need to rest.
Okay.
I told her to lay down, maybe she'll feel better.
But in hindsight, that was a mistake.
I woke up this morning and I looked at her like that and I said, oh.
Princess! Princess,
It was possible that her head injury was more serious than she had realized.
I mean, I was just in shock.
Chris is still in such shock that when the detectives turn back to the women that attacked Princess, there's little he can tell them.
He couldn't give us the color or the make of the vehicle.
They couldn't describe any of the women except for that they were black.
It was dark last night, man.
And the person who could help detectives the most is dead.
It's entirely possible that Princess knew her attackers.
Back during her school days, she was bullied.
Is it possible some of her bullies came back?
Or is Chris not being as forthcoming with the detectives as he appears?
He abandoned his pregnant girlfriend while she was being sought.
When police press Chris about his relationship with Princess, he says things are great between them.
He denied that there was any type of problems within the relationship.
There's no arguments, there's no fights, there's no issues whatsoever.
But there was something weighing on them.
He said that a few months earlier, the state had taken custody of their oldest child.
He couldn't really communicate to the police why that happened.
Although he hinted that it could have had something to do with Princess's disability.
They've been coming to the house, well, for our visitations.
They were working very hard at getting their child back.
They were getting through that. And this new baby that was on the way was going to make things even better.
After finishing up with Christopher at the crime scene, the detectives go to inform Princess's family of the devastating news.
They're distraught that their princess is gone.
And when the detectives relay what Christopher told them, her parents struggle to make sense of it.
They described her as a very mild-mannered, very loving, very easy to get along with person.
However, her parents admitted that Princess could have run into trouble in the past year.
Why do you say that?
Well, we really haven't been in touch with her.
Once she started living with Chris, the family really stopped seeing her, stopped being able to communicate with her.
That raised an immediate red flag for detectives.
Dictating who you can and cannot communicate with, that's one of the primary signs of control and abuse.
Princess Powell's family has just told the detectives investigating her murder that they haven't spoken to their daughter in nearly a year.
Her family says that once she got with Chris, that she no longer communicated with them.
He met her right after she graduated from high school, and that's when he began to put a wedge between her and her family and friends.
But they say the real break came once the couple moved in together.
The family really stopped seeing her, stopped being able to communicate with her.
And she even stopped coming by to see her son.
What happened next was even more surprising.
Their disability checks that was coming to them to help support her older son had been redirected back to her.
Why do you think she'd do that?
It wasn't her. It was Chris.
Having special needs sometimes makes a person susceptible to being easily taken advantage of or being easily manipulated.
She often had problems making decisions on her own, and that enabled Chris to take advantage of the situation.
Once he isolated her from the family, knowing Princess, she would not have gone anywhere without his permission.
Okay, but Princess never told you he was abusing her, right?
We suspected it, yeah.
However, they never were able to confirm because of the lack of contact with her.
But Princess's stepfather says he did see firsthand just how much power Chris had over her.
A month or two ago, I was at the gas station.
And when he saw her, he was shocked to see the condition that she was in.
He notices a black eye on Princess's face.
He attempted to speak to her, and she just ignored him.
And she walked right by me.
Worried, he'd followed Princess.
He tried to pull her aside in the parking lot and say, hey, you don't have to live like this. Please, come home. We love you. You have options.
But Princess continued to ignore him.
Princess, come on home, baby. We miss you. Princess.
It wasn't long before Chris noticed, of course, and Chris just really went off on her stepfather.
Leave her alone.
He was telling him, I'm tired of seeing you around. You need to stay away.
That was the last time I ever saw her.
You both have our deepest condolences.
Disturbed by what they've learned from the family, the detectives return to the trailer park to talk to Chris and Princess's neighbors.
The neighbors never saw Chris beat Princess, but they did report hearing screams coming from the home where Princess and Christopher were living.
It was a volatile, violent relationship, completely opposite of how Chris described it.
The neighbors also say that Princess was very submissive to Chris.
Several of the neighbors said that anytime you seen them together, he always walked in the front and she walked behind him and would often be seen with her head looking towards the ground. She didn't speak much. If you did try to talk to her, he would take over the conversation.
She was not given permission to speak. She was not encouraged to participate in conversations.
I immediately went to, this was a person who wanted to control her and would not let her be herself.
But it's what their friends and neighbors, Melissa Nichols and Kevin Harris, have to say about the day leading up to the murder that really interests detectives.
Chris had been drinking throughout the day, and they observed Princess walking behind him, and she appeared to be crying at some point.
Now, can you tell us why you think Princess was crying?
He beat the crap out of her, would be my guess.
On several occasions, Chris would tell him about the times that he beat Princess.
Chris was very vocal and very bold about his life with Princess, that he's got a relationship where he's doing what he wants to do.
And what he did most was beat up Princess.
So you saw Chris hit Princess?
But not exactly.
But according to Kevin, it wasn't really a secret either.
He told detectives that a couple months prior, they dropped by the trailer to see Chris and Princess.
We never actually saw her that night.
Chris actually told them she can't come out right now.
He told them, I beat her bad. She looks like a monster.
Two friends of Chris Lennon and Princess Powell have told detectives investigating Princess's murder that Chris admitted to beating her.
They said that they went to the residence to see them, and Princess never came out the back room.
He said that he beat her so badly, she looked like a monster.
He's taking her ice packs and going back and forth to the room to give her something to deal with the swelling, but the friends never got to see her.
So when they got home, they said they called the police.
Law enforcement would actually go out and do a well-being check on Miss Princess.
Did the cops come out?
Yeah, but they didn't do nothing.
She said she was assaulted by someone else.
When pressed by the neighbors who had made those calls, she would admit that Chris had done these things to her, but never to the police.
Oftentimes, victims will protect their abusers because they love their abusers. And I can imagine that Princess felt like she didn't want the love of her life to go to jail for that.
It's very frustrating as an officer because you want to do what's right. But if the victim is not willing to testify, then you can't bring criminal charges.
And now, her friends fear that reluctance had cost Princess her life.
They discussed noise they heard around 2 or 2:30 a.m. on the morning of the incident.
Tell us about these noises that you heard.
She was screaming.
And that was coming from their trailer?
Yeah.
Think about the timeline. That's way different than what Christopher is describing with this brutal attack by a pack of women.
After talking to the couple's friends, the detectives bring Chris in for a formal statement.
Detectives start by going back over what he told them at the scene.
The location that we took the first statement was in my patrol car.
At the beginning of the interview, he was very calm, but as the interview began to unveil his untruthfulness, his whole demeanor changed, his attitude changed. The only person that told me y'all had this great relationship was you.
Who? Nobody else don't know us.
The detectives counter by describing what neighbors had told them.
There's one thing that everybody always said. You walk first and she walked behind with her head hanging low.
They also talked about how friends and neighbors said he rarely let Princess speak to them.
That's because she can't talk that good.
She can't talk that good?
Nah, she can talk. She talk to me fine, but she'll mess up sometimes, and she don't want to be embarrassed around somebody.
And when the detectives ask him about the time he'd beaten Princess so badly he'd locked her away so her friends wouldn't see, he denies it completely.
I don't lock our bedroom doors don't even lock. How could I lock her in the bedroom?
And then you were treating her with cold rags because you beat her, she looked like a monster. According to what you told this person.
What? I told the person what?
That you beat her so bad they can't see it because she like a monster.
No, I did not say that.
He claimed that his neighbors fabricated the whole story.
Me and him done got in fights before. He don't like me.
When the questioning turns to the night of the murder, Chris continues to deflect.
Somebody said that they seen y'all walking
from a couple of trailers back over that way last night, and if she was walking behind you crying, that would have been a true statement?
They're asking questions about shrieks and screams coming from the home.
I don't know what you're talking about with that, sir.
So somebody said they heard fighting going on in your house last night. They weren't telling the truth either.
Nope. Nobody want to say that because we don't do stuff like that.
Well, yeah, somebody said that.
Well, if they did, they lied.
Chris is still sticking to his story, in spite of everyone saying the same thing.
He maintained that the death of Princess was a result of her being assaulted as they walked home by several females.
You seen the vehicle pull up?
Mm-hmm.
So was it a car or was it a truck?
I say maybe, I can't ever remember, man. So much stuff happened last night, you know?
Chris says all he knows for sure is that he woke up the next morning and Princess was dead.
Princess! I told you what happened, that's what happened.
But as the interview goes on, the detectives have even more reason to suspect that's not the case.
As the truth was being unveiled about him being dishonest in the death of Miss Princess, he began to get nervous. He would begin to wipe his forehead, state it was hot in the room.
You want me to open that door where maybe to cool off a little bit?
Yeah, but I'm really ready to go because, like I said, I ain't did nothing. I mean, like I said, I don't know why I woke up to my girl like that. I mean, if I would have did something like that, I would have not even tried to make a commitment or anything with coming down here or nothing like that. I would have been trying to get halfway to Mexico right now.
The detectives don't believe him, but they'll need more evidence to charge him.
They had to let him go.
After securing a search warrant, they head back to the couple's trailer.
We returned to the scene of Princess' death.
And this time, they bring luminol.
Luminol is the product that, once it's applied, it can show where those blood spots were that you cleaned up.
And once detectives sprayed it inside the trailer, it revealed the truth about Princess's death.
It all had transpired right there.
Detectives in Lumberton, North Carolina, are all but convinced that Christopher Lennon is responsible for the death of his girlfriend, Princess Powell.
All the signs are there that this guy is abusing his partner.
And when the couple's trailer is sprayed with luminol, the signs say he murdered her too.
It now becomes apparent that a crime did actually take place inside the home.
We had blood that was on the hallways, on walls, and there was a large amount of blood in the kitchen area right by the refrigerator.
There was also evidence that Chris had tried to cover up the crime.
You could actually tell where the mop had actually swirled through the blood where he had cleaned up behind himself.
When the detectives returned to the station to review the results of Princess's autopsy, it confirms that she was beaten to death.
The initial autopsy report revealed that her death was a result of blunt force trauma.
She had multiple broken ribs and a punctured lung.
But it could not tell what the blunt force trauma was caused by.
However, the autopsy does show that her death couldn't have been caused by an attack on the side of the road, as Chris claimed.
Her injuries that she sustained were so bad that there was no way that Princess could have made it home.
So the story that Chris painted for the police initially, where she'd got back to the house, became completely unreasonable and illogical.
We knew that Chris wasn't being truthful.
The autopsy also confirmed that Princess was pregnant.
However, while Chris told detectives she was only 2 months pregnant, the autopsy says otherwise.
She was a lot farther along. The fetus had developed to the point where you could recognize the little fingers and the little toes and the eyes.
With the results of the luminol and the autopsy, the detectives have enough evidence to charge Chris.
He was arrested and immediately taken into custody for the death of Miss Princess and their unborn child.
He's charged with first-degree murder and the felony murder of an unborn child.
But despite the mountain of evidence against him, Chris continues to insist he's innocent.
When Chris was arrested, he doubled down on his story and made no omission of guilt.
News of Chris's arrest comes as the community is still mourning the loss of Princess.
One of the teachers came back the next day and she was like, "You're not gonna believe what happened." And she shared with us the unfortunate circumstances of what happened, and that just broke my heart. I probably cried for about 2 or 3 days.
When you have this type of an incident in a smaller community like Lumberton, it affects the entirety of the community.
However, Princess's death also highlights the lack of support available in a small town like Lumberton.
Being in an underserved community that lacks resources, maybe not a lot of education around domestic violence, it's tough enough for an individual to feel like they need to get out of this situation. And if they don't have the means to do it, then they feel like there's no way out, and so they just stay.
Especially in the case of someone like Princess.
For individuals who are special needs, we need to reassure them that you don't have to follow what anybody says. You have a mind of your own, and you pretty much know what right or wrong is.
It's unfortunate that there were not supports available to her.
Because Princess could never break free on her own.
People would notice these marks on her body and would ask her, "Princess, what are these marks on your arm?" And she would always, "Oh, no, you know, I burned myself cooking." She would always provide cover for Chris.
And as the detectives build their case against him, they discover Princess isn't the first woman Chris has abused.
We started interviewing past girlfriends who was connected to Christopher.
That's how the detectives find a woman named Kelly Howell.
And Kelly Howell is a former girlfriend of Christopher.
She felt compelled to come to talk to the detectives.
She understood all too well exactly the life that Princess lived with Chris.
He's beat, abused every girl that he's been with.
Shortly after Christopher Lennon's arrest for the murder of Princess Powell and her unborn child, a woman named Kelly Howell has come to the station to speak with the detectives working the case.
Kelly Howell is a former girlfriend of Christopher Lennon. How long y'all date?
3 years.
Kelly said that when she heard about Princess's death, she automatically knew in her heart that Chris had caused this young lady's death.
According to Kelly, that's because she knew exactly what Princess had been through.
She stated that Christopher was very, very controlling and that she was unable to maintain jobs because of his control, his anger.
He was very jealous. If I went around anybody that was a guy, whether I knew him or not, I couldn't speak to him.
If she went to a grocery store and they acknowledged her or call her a name such as babe, she would be beat when she got home.
I had black eyes. He hit me all in the face.
She stated that she experienced several physical assaults.
He held me down, and I remember him asking me questions, and he would burn me, light a lighter and burn me with it. And I still got a scar right there.
She says that Christopher's abuse was so bad that she often feared for her life.
There was times that he would grab me by my throat, and I just wouldn't know if he would let me go in time. But there was plenty of times I thought that I was going to die.
But unlike Princess, she had eventually managed to escape.
Kelly had some freedoms and was able to have some autonomy where Princess did not.
She had the freedom to go to work, to drive.
And one day she left and never looked back.
He has no contact with you?
No contact.
But when she heard what happened to Princess, Kelly knew she had to come forward.
You know, I swear to God, I heard about this girl being beaten to death, found on a couch in that trailer park. He was the first person to come to my head. He was the first person.
The detective has no doubt that Kelly's instincts are correct.
Her situation was similar to Miss Princess's, but I think he learned from her relationship. Princess could not work. She was not allowed to work. She was not allowed to go anywhere. And his first relationship, she got away. And I think this relationship, he wasn't gonna let that happen.
And unfortunately, Princess's disabilities made her easier to control.
He knew what women to target, and he actually built his skills from prior relationships.
But no matter how much he honed his manipulation tactics, there was one thing Christopher couldn't change.
Why don't you listen?
He was very easily angered.
And the detectives believe that's what took over him on the evening of the murder.
Chris had been drinking throughout the day, according to witnesses. And I think something triggered him, that evilness that he possessed. And that is when the assault occurred.
Why you made me chase you, huh? Huh? Where you going, huh? Stop!
It wouldn't have been unusual for him to beat his partner, to torture this young lady and abuse her. But this time, he went too far, and it cost her life.
However, while the theory explains what happened, it makes securing a murder conviction problematic.
Trying to prove that he intentionally killed Princess was going to be a real challenge.
Was this just another episode of him getting a little heated, abusing her some, but not to the point of death?
As a result, the prosecutors work out a plea deal.
His charges were reduced to second-degree murder.
He's also allowed to enter what's known as an Alford plea.
Which means that he's not admitting that he committed this second-degree murder, but he acknowledges that, yeah, they got enough evidence against me to convict me.
In exchange for his plea, Chris receives a sentence of 31 years in prison.
I'm satisfied because it is 30 plus years that a female on this earth will not be assaulted by Christopher Lennon in his evilness.
However, many who knew Princess feel as though it still falls short of justice.
We're talking about an individual and an unborn child. So in actuality, you took the life of two people, not one. Is 30 years enough? I don't think so.
But no matter what they think of the plea deal, everyone agrees that what happened to Princess was an unspeakable tragedy.
What really bothers me about what has happened here is we're supposed to be a small, close-knit community. We say it takes a village. Here's someone over here suffering that really needs our help, and we really let her down.
To take advantage of anyone is bad, but to specifically target people such as Princess is even worse.
There are monsters out there in the world, and it just breaks my heart. The world lost a bubbly, energetic human being.
He took the life of someone who was loved, a person who was fragile and timid, but was loved.